The outcome of many EDF engagements is determined before combat even begins, not by raw damage output, but by target selection, spatial distribution, and which enemies are allowed to persist within the engagement space, all of which are influenced by player positioning, as established in Part 2. Let's look at how to apply and master this in practice. Isolation and threat hierarchy. When confronted with a dense enemy population in a passive state, the instinctive response is to apply damage to the largest cluster. On the surface, this feels efficient. In practice, it creates the opposite effect. Aggro propagation increases, attack cycles overlap, and a single misfire escalates into multiple threat vectors. Not all enemies are equally dangerous to activate. Some don't just add pressure, but change the state of the fight. This is where isolation becomes critical. Not just separation, but regulation of engagement density. Every additional active enemy not only increases damage, it increases fight complexity. More attack vectors, more timing conflicts, and more points of failure in your positioning. Use the minimap and visual awareness to identify groups or spawn points that can chain aggro. Isolation alone isn't enough. Even if a group is fragmented, engaging the wrong targets first will still destabilize the encounter. Ask one question before committing. Which enemy poses the greatest threat to my class or team when combat begins? Threat hierarchy isn't defined by damage alone, but by an enemy's ability to degrade control over the fight. This logic extends to spawn-driven encounter missions. In these cases, threat hierarchy applies not just to active enemies, but spawn sources. Leaving the wrong spawn active too long allows high-threat enemies to accumulate later. High HP bosses create prolonged exposure windows and increase chain aggro risk due to their larger hitboxes. Long-range attackers apply constant pressure regardless of distance. Terrain-negating enemies such as flyers invalidate positional advantage. Threat isn't static, it scales with proximity. High-speed, high-damage mobs like gold ants become exponentially more dangerous as distance collapses. These types of mobs are multi-factor threats, not defined by a single trait, but by how many destabilizing traits they stack as a group. Some threats aren't immediate, but become critical if left unchecked. Prioritization isn't simply about what's dangerous now, but what becomes dangerous later if disregarded. Many missions contain multiple high-priority threats simultaneously. For example, the DLC Mutant Hornet that's capable of destroying cover and quickly closing gaps. This typically takes priority over a slower ground-based boss, not because it deals more damage, but due to their behavior to remove positional stability and even blind you. Always remember, threat hierarchy isn't fixed. It's context-dependent, defined by which enemy can disrupt control in that moment. External aggro control. Up to this point, control has come from limiting how many enemies are allowed to engage at once and which ones. But control isn't only internal. It can be created by redirecting enemy attention entirely. EDF NPCs and fleeing civilians act as stable aggro anchors within combat. Enemies will naturally commit to them so long as you maintain a safer distance. This means you're creating predictable points of focus that reduce erratic behavior pressure. Making use of the inorganic decoys that Ranger and Air Raider have can yield similar successful results. Any NPCs under your command can be stabilized through emote locking. Repeating specific emotes fixes them in place through animation, increasing spatial separation from you and strengthening their role as aggro anchors, at the cost of increased exposure to damage. NPC launching is a Ranger-specific technique that, just like emote locking, creates temporary windows against distracted enemies by displacing them directly into enemy proximity, which in turn increases their risk to damage quicker. Active vehicle decoys apply primarily to advanced aliens. Once a vehicle has been entered at least once, it becomes registered as a valid target. This generates an additional point of attention, allowing enemy focus to be split away from the player. This behavior can be used deliberately to create disengagement windows to escape and break line of sight under pressure. However, this redirection is conditional. Enemy attention will remain on the vehicle only while the player is not presenting a higher priority stimulus. Any offensive action during escape, such as attacking while retreating, will immediately reassign priority back to the player. As a result, effective use of vehicle decoys requires controlled disengagement rather than continued aggression. And just like that, fights bend to your whim. Thanks for watching. Until next time.